Okay, next on the list of the greatest movies of 1991 is the 1991 film Oscar, directed by John Landis and starring a slew of amazing character actors, brilliant comedic actors of the time, and at the forefront, Sylvester Stallone. This was a vehicle for him to kind of branch out into comedy. This is one of the first official attempts of him transitioning to a comedy role in the same way that his rival Arnold Schwarzenegger had already done in the 80s with films like Twins and Kindergarten Cop. And later on he would do Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, which is famously, he was tricked into taking that by Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's just the way the story goes anyway. They had this rivalry where they were constantly trying to take roles from each other, and if they caught wind that the other wanted a role, then they would try to take the role from them, or they would jump on it. It's like, oh, I want to get that role. I want to take that from Schwarzenegger. I want to take that from Stallone. So Arnold was aware of this and put the word out that he was in love with this script and he really wanted to do this movie, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. So Sylvester Stallone told his people, get me that role. And of course, Arnold made it very easy for him to get that role because he never wanted it in the first place. And then boom, joke was on him. The movie was a complete flop, a complete joke. It still is kind of to this day. Now, Oscar was also panned, was also hated in a similar way. You can look at it that the character actors, the supporting cast surrounding him was praised, but that he was called flat and unfunny and awkward and all these things, like he stuck out like a sore thumb, and that this wasn't his forte. People used it as an example of why Sylvester Stallone is a bad actor. I kind of bought into this narrative for years throughout my life because I hadn't really explored his, at the time, back then, I hadn't explored his older films. I'm including Rocky in that. Recently I went through the Rocky films entirely, into the Creed films, and so Sylvester Stallone is a good actor. He was even really good in Death Race 2000. He was amazing in that. As his villain, his turn as that villain, an abusive, just mean dude, and he pulled that off beautifully. And then to go into a role like Rocky and to pull that off, just a very sympathetic, especially in like Rocky 2, which I think is my favorite. Just like he would shine through that franchise, and yeah, it's a little disjointed as far as the series goes. It's like he goes up and down in various forms of is he bright, is he brain damaged, is he not? It's not really clear, especially when you get into the 80s Reagan era Rocky entries. He's definitely, the focus is more on the money that he has, and he seems bright in those movies, and then he's kind of brain damaged, but then in 5 he's really brain damaged, and then he's not so brain damaged in Balboa. It's just like, it's all over the place. But that's more like a script, an overall film problem, and less about does he have the chops? Can he do this? Can he play any role? And I think he can, and I think he's a great actor. And overall, even though I enjoy both performers, overall I'd say that Sly is probably a better actor than Arnold. Now, what was going on in Oscar? I think he was doing something very deliberate here. He was playing the dumb Italian stereotype, the mafioso type. And this is a parody. It's a farce, but it's also a parody of gangster films. And it's leaning into the stereotype. It's leaning into that, and it's having fun with it. And if you can buy into that, and you could be okay with that style of acting, that style of humor, which I think this movie is brilliant and hilarious, then you're gonna have a good time with it. If you don't, and you're just focusing on, what happened to him? He used to be good. He was good in Rocky. Why is he acting bad in this? It's like, if you're looking at that way, instead of looking at it as like, no, this is just something different. And I happen to think that he does fit in with the universe of this film. That he does pair nicely with all the ridiculousness going on around him. Because everyone is elevated. Everybody is over the top in this movie. I'm sorry that I'm seeing now that the picture is pretty blown out, but what are you going to do? But you could tell. That's Oscar playing in back of me. Oscar is a classic farce. It takes place in one house, basically, and in the area around the house, mostly inside the house. There is like a black bag that is changing hands, constantly changing its contents within. People leaving one room, coming out of the other, and just mistaken identity, fun wordplay in the script, and everyone is just like, what's going on? Everyone's confused through the whole thing. It's just hilarious. It reminds me of any classic farce. My mind always goes to that movie Noises Off, which have always been a fan of. That's just one example, but if you're a fan of farces, then you're gonna love this movie. This movie is kind of a hybrid. It is a gangster film, but it's not a gangster shoot 'em up. It's got a little bit of that, you know these guys kill people. You know that they're very capable of pulling out the Tommy gun and shooting everybody in the room at any given time. They don't do it, but because this movie is more about, it's funnier that they don't do it. That's the joke. It's like they can, but it's like they're portrayed as real people with these regular problems. Sylvester Stallone is trying to marry off his daughter to one guy, but she's in love with this other guy, and it's and then you got the speech therapist played by Tim Curry, who's great in this. Chaz Palminteri almost steals the show as the Sly's goon, one of not his top goon. He's a little bit of a simpleton, and he's kind of played up that way, but there's so many funny moments with him, like the speech therapist Tim Curry, when he says to him, you have a dangling participle, and he looks down at his fly because he thinks that means that his thing is out, and it's just like there's so many funny moments in this movie. Then there's the Finucci's, one of the I can't remember the other guy, but the guy who from This Is Spinal Tap and Christopher Guest movies. What's his name? Harry Shearer, who was fired from The Simpsons. He's no longer the voice of Mr. Burns, and whenever I see that show, or Principal Skinner and any other amazing characters he did, it's just too off-putting for me. It's like, yeah, I get it. The guy's doing a pretty good impersonation of what the voice should sound like, kind of like the new Kermit the Frog is doing, but it's just not the same, and it's weird. It's weirder in The Simpsons, I think, than the Kermit thing. And but anyway, he's in this as one of the Finucci's, and the funny thing, mistaken identity, confusing thing about that is that they're just tailors. They make suits for people, but there's a scene where somebody assumes that they're these ferocious hitmen, that these butchers. And so there's this uncomfortable thing, and everything they say and everything they do, the guy's like shuddering and doesn't know. He's like got his eye on him. It's like, what are they gonna do? And they're just these nice, jovial tailor dudes who are just love making suits for people, and they're just simple guys. So it's just like there's humor like that, and that scene where they're playing the piano, and man. So you should really check this movie out. Marissa Tomei is really great in this as Sylvester Stallone's daughter. I know I'm all over the place, but Sly's character is his last name is he's Provolone, right? Snaps Provolone, or as Tim Curry's character Provolone says, which is again leaning into the fact that this is a joke. It's a spoof almost. It's like a parody of the gangster stereotype in the gangster films, the old gangster films, like the Cagney films and all stuff of that era, And this movie just like it's a joy. It just flies by. It's the movie you can just watch over and over again. I've seen it so much in my life. I know it so well. The cast is a joy. It's one of my favorite John Landis films. I'd say you got American Werewolf in London. You got Innocent Blood. I even enjoy obviously Trading Places. Coming to America, I'm quite fond of. I put Oscar in my list of favorite Landis films because he, this was at the early end of his 90s run. This is obviously 91. Innocent Blood was around here too. Innocent Blood might have been after this. But, and then after that, yeah, maybe things take a dip. But I don't think that they started to take a dip in his career till after this movie and that movie. The guy had a run, man. He had a run. Not every single movie he's ever made is one of my favorites, but a lot of them are some of my favorite films. He's definitely got a good ratio of, like, great films to okay, not so great films. A great ratio. Obviously in the upper tier, higher tier of just, like, you know, his batting average is very high, I would say. The music is a joy. The opening with the stop action, the claymation opera singer. I don't really know how that goes, but something like that. But he's just basically singing as the credits run, and a really great opening credit sequence. Other than that, I think, yeah, this movie's just a joy. You should really check it out if you haven't. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm gonna have to rank this one as a classic for sure. I mean, come on, I've talked the movie up. It's no secret. 1991, I'm finding, in doing this tier list ranking, is obviously one of my favorite years in film. I have very fond memories of this year, so that is why I'm ranking a lot of them so high, and I probably will continue to do so. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed my spickage and the movie playing in the background, and have a great rest of your life. Joy to you. Mm-hmm.
Show up to the party with the wrong face in space. No one hears you scream like a primate. First dates can be long and hard like a phallus. Chalice.